Ireland, the Emerald Isle of legends and poetry. But did you know its name goes back to an ancient goddess of the land itself? When you think of Ireland today, your mind might conjure images of Dublin, a city alive with history, music and stories. The River Liffey flows through its heart, past ancient castles and modern glass buildings. It's a place where the past feels incredibly close, a living, breathing part of the present. Dublin stands as the vibrant capital of a nation that has captivated the world's imagination. It's a gateway to an island of staggering beauty, a place where every corner seems to hold a new secret, a new tale waiting to be told. But beyond the bustling streets of Dublin, another image defines this island. It is the image of green, an almost impossible luminous green that blankets the landscape. This is where the famous nickname, the Emerald Isle, comes from. It isn't just a poetic flourish, it is a literal description of the land. The frequent rain carried in from the Atlantic Ocean nourishes the grass and moss, keeping the countryside lush and vibrant all year round. The name was first written down by the poet William Drennan in the late 1700s, but the idea it captures is timeless. It speaks of a land that feels alive, fertile, and forever young. This endless green is more than just a colour. It has become a symbol of Ireland itself, intertwined with its identity. It represents nature's raw beauty, a constant presence in the lives of the people who call this island home. The emerald landscape is the backdrop for countless myths and legends, a stage for heroes, saints and fairies. When people around the world celebrate St. Patrick's Day, they wear green. They are connecting, perhaps without even knowing it, to this deep visual bond between the land and its people. The Emerald Isle is not just a place on a map, it is an idea, a feeling of enduring life and natural wonder. So when we look at this island, we see more than just a country. We see a landscape that has shaped its culture, its stories, and its very soul. The name Emerald Isle perfectly captures the visual splendor of Ireland, but the country's actual name, Ireland, holds a much older story. It is a story that takes us back through centuries of change, back to a time of myth and magic. It connects this green land not just to its appearance, but to the very spirit that the ancient Celts believed inhabited it, a spirit embodied by a powerful goddess. To understand the name Ireland, we must travel back in time, back before recorded history, to the age of Celtic mythology. The ancient people of this land, the Gaels, had a profound connection to the world around them. They saw divinity in the rivers, the mountains, and the very soil beneath their feet. For them, the land was not just a resource, it was a living entity, a powerful being worthy of reverence, and this being had a name. Her name was Ériu. She was one of three sister goddesses, along with Banba and Fodla, who were said to be the divine personification of the island itself. The most famous story of Ériu comes from a collection of myths known as the Lebor Gabala Éire, or the Book of the Taking of Ireland. This text tells the story of the Milesians, a mythical people said to be the final ancestors of the Irish Gaels, who arrived on the island to conquer it. As they journeyed inland, they met the three sister goddesses. Each goddess asked the Milesians to name the land after her. When the invaders met Ériu atop the sacred hill of Uisnach, a place considered the very centre of Ireland, they were struck by her power and her passionate plea. The leader of the Milesians, the poet Emergine, made a promise to Ériu. He promised that this beautiful green island would bear her name for all time. In return, Ériu gave them her blessing and prophesied that the land would belong to their descendants forever. This story is more than just a simple myth. It is a foundational charter for the Irish people. It establishes a sacred pact between the people and the land they inhabit. The name of their country was not chosen by a king or a conqueror, but by a goddess who embodied the spirit of the place itself. This connection to Ériu became a cornerstone of Irish identity. She wasn't just a goddess of the land in a general sense. She was the land. Her name became synonymous with sovereignty, the right to rule and protect the island. To be a rightful king in ancient Ireland, one had to be symbolically married to the land, to Éiriu. This idea of a female deity representing the nation persisted for centuries, evolving over time into figures like Kathleen Ní Houlihan in later literature. The myth of Éiriu rooted the Irish people's sense of belonging in something deep, spiritual and eternal. Language is a living thing. It shifts and changes over time, like a river carving a new path through the land. The name of the goddess, Ériu, was no exception. In the Old Irish language spoken by the early medieval Gaels, her name was often written in the dative case, which is used to indicate location at Éire or in Ériu. This form was Éireann. As the language evolved into what we now know as modern Irish or Gaelic, the name settled into a new form, Éire. This became the Gaelic name for the country, the name used by its native speakers for centuries. The name Éire is more than just a word, it's a vessel for culture and history. It is the name you find in ancient poems, in heroic sagas, and in the annals written by monks in remote monasteries. It echoes through the great Gaelic tales of Cuchulainn and Fionn mac Cumhaill. When Irish bards and storytellers spoke of their homeland, it was Éire they named. This name carried the weight of their heritage, the memory of their ancestors, and the enduring spirit of their connection to the land of the goddess Ériu. It was a name spoken with pride and a deep sense of belonging. Even as other languages and cultures arrived on the island, the name Éire remained the heartbeat of the native Irish identity. It was a symbol of continuity, a thread connecting the present back to the mythical past. To speak the name Éire was to affirm a cultural heritage that predated any foreign influence. It was a quiet act of defiance against forces that sought to change or erase that heritage. The name was preserved in the oral tradition, passed down from generation to generation in songs, poems, and everyday conversation, especially in the Gaelic-speaking regions of the country. This transition from Ériu to Éire shows a beautiful and natural linguistic evolution. It demonstrates how a name rooted in the deepest layers of myth could adapt and thrive within a living language. Éire was not just a name for a place on a map. It was the name of a spiritual and cultural homeland. It represented the soul of the nation, a soul that was deeply intertwined with the ancient Gaelic language. And it was this name that would stand as a symbol of native identity during the turbulent centuries that were to come. The story of Ireland's name takes another turn with the arrival of new people on its shores. Around the 9th century, fierce seafaring warriors from Scandinavia, the Vikings, began to raid and later settle along the Irish coast. They founded many of Ireland's coastal cities, including Dublin. These Norse speakers heard the Gaelic name for the island, likely the form Éireann, and adapted it to their own tongue. They added the Old Norse word for land or territory, which was land. The result was a new name, Erland. This is the first clear ancestor of the modern English name we use today. This new name, Erland, began to appear in Norse sagas and records. It was the name the Vikings used to describe the Green Island to the west, the land they traded with, raided, and eventually called home. It's a fascinating example of how names can cross cultural and linguistic boundaries. The core of the name, Éire, still came from the ancient goddess Ériu, but it was now filtered through a Norse lens, attached to a Norse word. The name was beginning its journey from a purely Gaelic context into the wider world of Northern Europe. Then, in the 12th century, another wave of invaders arrived, the Normans. These French-speaking knights who had previously conquered England brought their language and their own way of naming things to Ireland. They established castles, earldoms, and a new political order. As they solidified their control, they adopted the existing Norse Gaelic name for the island and adapted it into their own Anglo-Norman French. The name evolved into forms like Irlanda. This version began to appear in the administrative documents and chronicles of the new rulers. The English language, which was itself a blend of Anglo-Saxon and Norman French, eventually absorbed this name. Over time, Irlanda solidified into the English form we recognize, Ireland, so the name we use in English is a fascinating hybrid. It has a Gaelic heart, the name of the goddess Ériu, but it wears a Germanic coat, the suffix land gifted to it by the Vikings. This linguistic journey reflects the complex history of the island itself, a story of settlement, invasion, and the blending of cultures. While the Gaels continued to call their home Éire, a new name was taking root among the newcomers. For centuries, the names Éire and Ireland existed side by side. Éire was the name used by the native Irish in their own language, a name that resonated with their ancient culture and heritage. Ireland was the name used by the English-speaking administration that was gradually extending its control over the island from the fortified area around Dublin, known as the Pale. For a long time, the two names represented two distinct worlds, two different cultures living on the same island. The Gaelic world with its own laws, customs and language, and the English world with its crown, its parliament and its colonial ambitions. As English power grew, particularly after the Tudor conquests of the 16th century and the Cromwellian plantation of the 17th century, the English language began to spread. The colonial administration sought to replace Gaelic culture with English ways. This process, known as Anglicization, affected every aspect of life, from law and land ownership to language and place names. The official name of the country in all government documents, maps and communications was Ireland. The native name Éire was pushed to the margins, associated with the old Gaelic order that was being suppressed. This period saw a dramatic decline in the use of the Irish language. Penal laws and social pressure made English the language of power, commerce and education. As more and more people began to speak English as their first or only language, the name Ireland became the common term for the country, even among the Irish people themselves. The name Éire retreated along with the Gaelic language, surviving mainly in the Gaeltacht, the Irish-speaking regions of the west coast, and in the hearts of poets and scholars who sought to preserve the nation's ancient heritage. The dominance of the name Ireland in English is a direct legacy of this colonial history. It represents a period when one culture and one language were imposed upon another. While the name itself has ancient roots reaching back to Ériu, its widespread use in its English form is a reminder of a painful and complex past. The story of Ireland's names becomes a story of cultural struggle. Éire became a symbol of a suppressed identity, a hidden treasure of the Gaelic world, while Ireland became the public face of the nation, the name known to the rest of the world. The turn of the 20th century brought a powerful resurgence of Irish nationalism. A cultural revival sought to reclaim the Gaelic heritage that had been suppressed for so long. The Irish language, the ancient myths, and the name Éire became powerful symbols of a distinct national identity. For the revolutionaries and poets who led the fight for independence, Éire was more than just a name. It was a declaration of sovereignty, a rejection of colonial rule, and a reclamation of the nation's soul. It was a direct link back to the pre-colonial Gaelic world and the goddess of the land herself. When Ireland finally gained independence in 1922 and later became a republic, this dual identity was enshrined in law. The 1937 Constitution of Ireland states that the name of the state is Éire, or in the English language, Ireland. This was a hugely significant act. It officially restored the ancient Gaelic name to a place of honour. It declared to the world that the nation had two names and that both were equally valid. Éire is used on postage stamps, official documents and the presidential seal, a constant reminder of the country's deep Gaelic roots. Today, the two names are used in different contexts, reflecting the country's bilingual and multicultural reality. Ireland is the name used internationally and in everyday English conversation. It is the name you see on news reports and at sporting events. Éire, on the other hand, holds a more poetic and official status. It connects modern Ireland to its ancient past and is a powerful symbol of national pride and cultural identity. For many Irish people, seeing the name Éire on their passports or hearing it in a song is a source of immense pride. This dual naming is a beautiful solution to a complex history. It acknowledges the journey the name has taken, from Ériu to Éire to Ireland. It respects both the Gaelic heritage and the reality of English as a majority language. It allows the nation to embrace all parts of its past, the mythical, the Gaelic, the medieval, and the modern. The two names do not compete. Instead, they complement each other, telling a richer, more complete story of what it means to be Irish. They are two sides of the same coin, representing one nation with a deep and resilient spirit. So, why is it called Ireland? The answer is a story as rich and layered as the land itself. It begins in the myths of mythology, with a goddess who personified the green earth. Her name, Ériu was a sacred promise, a pact between a people and their home. That name lived on, changing its shape but not its spirit, becoming Éire in the language of the Gaels. It became the vessel for 1,000 years of poetry, song and storytelling, the cultural heartbeat of a nation. It was a name that carried the very soul of the island. The name's journey through history reflects the resilience of the Irish people. It survived the arrival of Vikings, who reshaped it into Ireland, and Normans, who passed it into the English tongue as Ireland. It endured centuries of colonial rule, where the English form became dominant and the Gaelic Éire became a symbol of a suppressed culture. Yet it was never forgotten. It was kept alive in the Gaeltacht, in hidden poems and in the collective memory of a people who refused to let their ancient identity fade away. The survival of the name is a testament to the strength of that identity. Today, the names Éire and Ireland stand together, a testament to the nation's ability to embrace its complex past. They tell a story of myth, invasion, struggle and rebirth. The name Ireland connects the nation to the wider world, a name forged in the crucible of medieval history. The name Éire connects the nation to its own deep soul, to the goddess, the land, and the Gaelic language. To understand the story of these two names is to understand the very essence of Ireland, a place where myth is never far from the surface and where the past is always present. The name of a country is never just a label. It is a poem, a history, and a declaration of who its people are. For Ireland, the name is a powerful link to a mythical goddess, a symbol of sovereignty, and a story of incredible resilience. It is a reminder that even after centuries of turmoil, the spirit of Ériu, the spirit of the land, endures. If this story gave you new insight, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Which country's name should we uncover next? Drop your suggestion below.